Hello friends, this week's Tom's DIY Garage is about generators. Fair warning though, it was recorded before Hurricane Beryl came in and had its way with Houston. It was intended really as a cautionary tale of things you might consider ahead of a storm. Instead, we all got a crash course in what to do. But I can tell you from personal experience, after putting my own generator through its paces, it is solid advice and something to think about before the inevitable next storm. Welcome to Tom's DIY Garage. We are not in my garage. We are not in my workshop this week. We are at John Moore Services with Rich Gillette from John Moore Services, who is really your generator. You're the generator expert in the building.
Yeah,
right?
they call me the generator guru sometimes.
Okay, yes. So we'll call you the generator guru because we're talking about generators because we have had too many instances in recent history where you've needed a generator. That line of storms that just crushed Houston at this point a couple of months ago. It wasn't hurricane season. It wasn't a freeze. It was this storm. So many people got knocked out of power.
Absolutely. All the tree limbs that fell and took down power lines, and it was just a mess. Our sales quadrupled that week, in fact, and they're still very strong, even though we really haven't gotten into any hurricane season yet.
So a lot of people calling saying, I need a generator.
Gosh. Business is great.
Sadly so. Sadly so.
It's sad, but I think as Houston continues to grow and global warming, whatever else is going on, there aren't enough power plants. We just don't produce enough energy to cover the spread. The addition of electric vehicles, all these things are taxing the grid. We need some more power plants.
Yeah.
And until that happens, a home backup generator is a wonderful solution.
So we are reminded, and nobody really appreciates how much we need and depend on the electricity until you don't have it.
Absolutely.
Right? You flip that switch, the AC doesn't go on,
Sure.
the Wi-Fi doesn't work, and everything in between. When you don't have that, it's like, oh my gosh, I need this.
Absolutely. Refrigeration, if nothing else, right?
There's that too.
The gallon of milk for that breakfast cereal or insulin or anything else you keep in your refrigerator. It's critical that you have that. And in Houston, essentials are more than just lights and internet and alarm. They're also air conditioning.
Yeah.
So the ability to at least have a small window unit or one of your two ACs running when we have a prolonged outage is becoming more and more important.
So I have read that, and we'll talk about this, and we'll show this later, but the standby generator has just become the thing for so many customers.
Absolutely. It's just like another appliance in the house, a dishwasher, a garbage disposal. Now it's an air conditioner and a standby generator. In fact, lots of new home builders are actually installing the intermediary device, the transfer switch, when they build a property. And then it's up to the customer to size and pick the appropriate generator. So they're making new homes generator ready because it's going to be just a standard appliance offering.
My dad, who had a home in suburban Detroit, had one years and years ago, and he got one. He said because my power would go out if I had a heavy dew in the morning. That was old man dad logic and dad humor. But these things work for those who don't know. It's an almost instantaneous. You lose it from the grid, this thing pops up.
Correct. So there's an intermediary device called an automatic transfer switch. And that transfer switch basically has two solenoids or two switches. And it kind of operates like a two-way light switch on a staircase. Your utility meter is powering the house or the generator is powering the house. One switch is on, one switch is off. And that switching is done automatically, hence automatic transfer switch. Nothing for the customer to do, nothing for them to unplug, switch, all automatically. And like you said, it's seconds. We have a blackout, a total outage, and that transfer switch blocks the utility meter, turns on the generator, and you're on generator power. When the utility power returns, it does the opposite, blocks the generator and turns on the utility. Now, one thing for new generator owners, they may not realize this, if the generator's been running and I switch back to utility power, the generator will continue to run for a few minutes to cool down. And then it'll automatically shut off, but it's not producing power.
You mentioned the transfer switch.
Yes.
And that's really, it's critical for the standby.
Correct.
But there are also things that you can install for people who are running portable. It's not an automatic
Absolutely.
thing, but it's a place to plug in your generator
Yes.
into the house. This is not a DIY job.
No, exactly right.
You've got to have a professional.
Absolutely. And listen, you don't want 6 or 7 extension cords running through the house
Right.
either. So what happens with the portable generators is an inlet is installed outside the house close to the electric panel and electric meter. And there's a single cord that runs from the generator to the inlet. In your electrical panel, there's a breaker for the inlet. And there's a device called an interlock kit. Like the automatic transfer switch, except manual, you block the utility power by turning off the main breaker to the house and turn on the generator breaker to allow the generator to power the house. And then conversely, when power returns, this interlock kit blocks the generator inlet. It allows you to turn back on the power manually on the main breaker.
For people who have trouble visualizing this, it looks like a cutout piece of sheet metal.
It does.
And it switches down and it blocks.
Yes, it blocks one and allows the other to flow.
Right.
Or the opposite way, blocks the opposite and allows the other to flow. It's also very important. So when I'm what they call backfeeding a panel from a generator, I have the potential to possibly electrocute a lineman who's working on the line if that main breaker is not turned off.
Because you're shooting juice not only from your generator into your house, but
beyond
that, straight out to wherever that line is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it is a national electrical code requirement that if you backfeed a panel with a generator through a appropriate UL approved generator inlet, that you have an interlock kit. And that locking device is mission critical. And this is one of the best selling home standby generators. It's a 22 kW. Anywhere between 22 and 26 kW is what most people have that want to do their air conditioning if they want a permanently installed standby generator.
So, and this is, as we have discussed, this is designed to be automatic when.
Yes, the automatic transfer switch will block the utility power when the power goes off and allow the generator to come on. And then do just the opposite when the utility power returns. But you know, there's one thing, Tom, we didn't talk about, brownout protection. There's another advantage of an automatic transfer switch. So everybody knows what a blackout is. That's absolutely no power. But a brownout is when demand is ahead of supply, exceeds supply. And the voltage may drop to your home. Now, in the old days, we had incandescent light bulbs.
Right.
And that incandescent light bulb glowed a little yellow or brown instead of white, soft white. That's where the term was coined, brownout. So I'm getting power, but not 120 and not 240. I may be getting 100 volts or less because the demand exceeds the supply. Today, those brownouts don't dim our bulbs because they're LED or fluorescent.
Right.
But what they do is reduce the amount of voltage that goes to our electrical appliances in our house. And all the computer chips in these modern appliances are at risk when the voltage drops. They're not happy when voltage is low, so they work harder. And working harder produces heat. And they overheat, and that's when you need to get a new control board for your microwave.
Which sounds fantastic. These can help.
Absolutely. So when voltage drops below 100 for more than 30 consecutive seconds, the automatic transfer switch blocks the utility power and turns the generator on to protect your appliances during a brownout. Then when power returns to over 100 volts for more than a consecutive minute, switches back. So not only blackout protection, but brownout protection too. People don't realize that home standby generators will protect your appliances.
Which is always nice. So I think the biggest knock for a lot of people for the standby generator is, number one, the initial cost. And for those who've done some research, some fairly intensive maintenance that perhaps may not coincide with the portable. How true is that? Tell me about that.
Maintenance is a little bit more expensive because there's a few more things that go wrong. First of all, on this size generator, which is very typical, we have a twin-cylinder 999 cc engine. So I got 2 spark plugs, 1 spark plug. So a couple more spark plugs. I have an air filter. I have an oil filter. Some of the smaller air-cooled generators like this also have valve adjustments that are needed occasionally. So I highly recommend you have a trained and certified generator tech do your maintenance once a year. most of the manufacturers' warranties require annual maintenance as well. First maintenance is at 25 engine hours with most manufacturers. That seems quick, but we want to get the break-in oil out of there. Then after the initial oil change, every 200 hours or 1 year, whatever happens first.
For the consumer, though, daily, I want to make sure it's ready
Yes.
to go.
So
What do I do?
if this thing's running every day, say we have a multiple outage, what you want to do is shut it off. Shut it off with the transfer switch, and you want to check the oil. And checking the oil in this is just like your car or motorcycle. It's a simple dipstick. The dipsticks are normally color-coded. Yellow or orange are the two most popular colors, so it's easy to see. Most of these size generators also have an easily removable front panel. That makes it very convenient to fill the oil. And again, color-coded. An orange fill cap, just like the orange dipstick. And yes, on this particular generator, they've even coordinated the oil filter. So everything to do with oil is orange. Making it pretty easy.
And then maintain that, make sure everything is ready to go.
Yes.
As you're using it, add as necessary.
Every day, if this is running 24 hours, you want to shut it down for a little while, let it cool down, check your oil, and then add to the appropriate hatch marks on the dipstick. These generators also only take about 2 quarts of oil. So when you're down a quart, you're down 50%.
And that's outside of the annual maintenance, all you got to worry about typically.
Correct. That's all the homeowner should have to worry about. But there are some interesting features on this generator too. There's a health monitor indicator on the right side. So there is a series of LED lamps behind this indicator. You want to see green. Think of a traffic light. Green stands for go.
Right.
If it turns yellow, caution. Something needs to be done soon. And if it turns red, it's a hard stop.
Is that like a check engine light?
That engine's not going to run. Call me.
It seems like certainly after hurricanes, power goes out and there's a rush on the big box store and everybody's taking a generator home. In fact, I was at a hurricane in South Padre Island years ago, and there was a guy with a flatbed trailer on the side of the truck, and he had a load of generators.
Buying them all.
You want one? I got them to sell. But people take these home, they unbox them, and they have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
There's a reason that instruction book is there, because there's a lot of stuff that you can and
Yeah, lots of things. So number one, you have to add a dual pole breaker to your electric panel. You may have no space, right? If there's no space left in the panel, an electrician may have to come out and put in some piggyback breakers or a sub panel to make space for that new breaker. That's probably not a DIY task.
No.
And some of these portables, as we were talking earlier, Tom, are now multiple fuel. We carry a couple Duramax tri-fuel products, which can be run on gasoline, propane, or natural gas, which are really neat. So now we can add a T to your gas meter, a shutoff valve, and a quick connect connection. So just like the one cord from the generator to the inlet, you have a quick connect gas line from your gas meter to the generator. No more gasoline, no more gunky carburetor. It's wonderful. You do lose a little bit of kW because natural gas doesn't burn as efficiently as gasoline, but the convenience factor is wonderful. Think about it. I lived here for Ike. My neighborhood was out for 2 weeks. So were all the gas stations in the neighborhood. To get gas, you may have to drive 20 miles. Use natural gas if you have it. It's a wonderful solution. And if, gosh forbid, something ever happened to the natural gas supply, you can actually run on propane. Even the 5-gallon tanks that we have for our barbecue grills can power the generator for a few hours.
How long can these generators, I know the standby is designed to go for forever.
Well,
with some maintenance,
with some maintenance.
But how long realistically can someone run their home off a generator?
So the portables, including the tri-fuels, you need to shut them down every 8 hours to check the oil. And you need to change the oil every 50 hours for most brands. Check your owner's manual to make sure, but that's the recommended and the average numbers that I've seen. It's so important on these smaller engines that we turn them off, let them cool off a little bit, pull the dipstick, check the oil, because that's the way to ruin a generator. If that oil gets low, that generator will overheat. And they only hold about 2 quarts. So there's not a lot of wiggle room there. If you're down a quart, you're down half.
Right. Yeah. So as we are at the front end of generator season,
Right.
hurricane season, and really Houston is becoming more and more kind of a year-round sort of thing. I can hear some experts saying, well, hey, you need this all the time. Look at history. There's a fly here.
I know. I had it too.
Yeah. So as we have this, we hope we don't need to use it.
Right.
But how much can you just let that sit there and say, well, I don't need it. I'm just let it. It's in my garage.
Yes.
How much do you need to kind of prepare for, get it ready to use in the event that you do need it?
Well, a couple things. First, if you're running it on gasoline, whenever you run a portable generator on gasoline, you want to run it dry. So if we have a storm and only lasts a few hours and you're running on gasoline, keep that generator running. Run the gasoline all the way through it. We don't want the gasoline to go rancid or bad in the gas tank or in the carburetor, or you have an expensive bill to clean the carburetor and clean the gas tank. So run it dry. If you're running on propane or natural gas, that's not important, because when you turn off the gas, you turn off the fuel supply to the generator, and you don't have to worry about the carburetor corroding. But most of these larger portable generators now are battery powered. So the other thing you have to do is you have to start the generator every month or two and let it run for 5 minutes to charge the battery. Some of the larger portable generators, they recommend you buy a little trickle charge battery charger and actually charge the battery. The ones we offer are even remote control. So you never have to pull the cord. You have a little key fob, just like your car remote, that turns it off and on. And I recommend that. If you run to the store, turn the generator off. Don't put the hours on it if you're not going to be home for an hour. And as soon as you get back, turn it back on. But yes, oil changes regularly. Check the oil. If you have gasoline in it, add a fuel stabilizer like Stable, but run it dry. Always use fresh gas for the new season.
I have ruined a couple of lawnmowers
over
the years by leaving gas sit there.
Exactly
It's a small
principle.
engine, and
Yes,
that's old gas.
Yes.
And it doesn't.
and ethanol is in all our gas now too, right? And ethanol is alcohol, and alcohol and rubber and vinyl fuel lines don't mix either. So you want to make sure you run that gas through.
At the end of the day, though, these have become a lifesaver for so many people.
Absolutely. Not just a convenience, but a lifesaver. Like I mentioned, refrigeration, right? I remember during Ike, I was getting phone calls from people asking me, I have a gas stove, but the power's out. How do I light it? So instead of pulling out the old lighter or match, right? If you had a portable generator or a permanently installed generator, you had some power. Now the ignition for those gas appliances function as well. Your hot water heater may need ignition as well. Your gas logs in your fireplace need a spark to ignite them. And your cooktop and your oven, even if they're gas, need a spark to ignite them. So you want to make sure when this is running, about every 8 hours, check the oil level, and every 50 hours, so 2 consecutive days of running, replace the oil. Because there's no radiator or no engine coolant, these things run very hot, and they run at 3,600 RPMs. Most cars are running at 2,000 RPMs, so you're building up heat quickly. So you want to make sure you replace the oil after 2 days of continuous running to ensure the oil hasn't broken down.
There are all sorts of ways to plug into the portable generator.
Absolutely. So traditional extension cords, and this one can take 2, 4, 6, 8, up to 10 extension cords. But what most people are doing is they're installing one large generator inlet plug on the outside of their home. And there is a single cord that runs from the generator to the inlet outside the home. No extension cords to trip on, and this will electrify everything in the panel. Now you have to use essential circuits only. This generator produces about 50 amps of power. You may have a 200 amp electrical service to the house. So we're still talking essential circuits. But for sure, a refrigerator, a TV, your alarm, your internet, and if you add a soft start kit to one of your central air conditioners, in most cases you can power your central air conditioner as well. One. Essential circuits, one big appliance at a time.
But a lot more affordable as well.
A lot more affordable. And listen, I think the portability feature is amazing as well.
Well, I can certainly appreciate the benefit of a permanent, hardwired, whole home generator. For my own purposes, I wasn't prepared to make that much of a commitment. I do like this particular option, though, that I just got. Kind of a good combination of good reviews, availability, and price. It's got enough power to run a bunch of stuff in the house, not everything, but enough to keep things comfortable if we lose the power. Most importantly, it is a tri-fuel generator. That means it will run on gasoline, propane, or most important for me in this case, natural gas. Because if your home has natural gas coming in for heating, for cooking, for drying the clothes, whatever, it will always be there. Whether the power is on or off, you've got natural gas. For my home, I've got this little stub on my patio, but you could also go to your gas register, hire a plumber, and have them add a valve so that you could plug into there. Another huge benefit, as Rich Gillette notes, is that if you use natural gas for your generator, you don't have to have a big supply of fresh gasoline when supplies might be tight to come by to run your generator. Instead, you plug the line in and you press the start button. Power.
If you're thinking about this, do this now.
Yes.
Before
Absolutely.
a named storm develops, because poof, you're not going to be able to get them.
Now, I like to say April showers, spring, May flowers, and then generator season if you live in Houston.
Yeah. All right. So there you are. Tom's DIY Garage from John Moore Services. Rich, thanks very much.
Thank you, Tom.
I appreciate it.
Great visiting with you.